The Trial of Rizal. Rescue attempts by the Katipunan. As early as during Rizal's exiles in Dapitan, the Katipunan, a secret revolutionary society founded by Bonifacio, was deeply concerned about his life. The Katipunan planned to secure him and smuggle him on board a ship to Japan. Rizal disapproved this plan so that it was not carried out. Later, in the early days of August 1896, before the outbreak of the revolution, Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Aceito, and other brave Katipuneros plotted to rescue Rizal from the cruiser Castilla, which was then anchored in Manila. Arrival and in-man rescue attempts by the Katipunan. Jacinto and some Katipuneros, disguised as sailor of the motor launch Caridad, were able to board the cruiser. Jacinto approached Rizal, who was on deck, and whispers, "We are Katipuneros. We are heavily armed and we come to rescue you." But Rizal graciously refused to be rescued. Rizal could have escaped with the aid of Katipunan, but he chose to remain within the clutches of Spain rather than flee like common felon. Being a man of honor, he thought that the Spanish colonial authorities were also honorable men. Last trip to Spain. For 26 days, Rizal stayed on board the Castilla. On August 30, 1896, Rizal left for the Spain on board the steamer Isla de Panay. It was the fourth time he had left Manila Bay for abroad. At the time, the revolutionary was raging furiously in the provinces around Manila. On the eve of his departure, he wrote to his mother, "Do not worry about anything. We are all in the hands of divine providence. Not all who go to Cuba die. Anyway, if one has to die, it is better to die doing some good." Rizal in Singapore. The steamer reached Singapore, British colony, on the night of the September 7th. The next morning, Don Pedro Rojas and his son, Rizal's fellow passenger, got off the ship. Rizal's friends in Singapore, including Rojas, urged him to remain. But Rizal did not need their advice. "No," he said, "I cannot be fugitive. I am not afraid, for I am innocent." Arrest and imprisonment. On the afternoon of September 30, when the steamer had port said and was cruising the Mediterranean Sea, Rizal was placed under arrest by the ship's skipper, Captain A. Alemani, upon telegraphic orders from Manila. Rizal was bitterly disgusted at Spanish injustice. He was confined to his cabin during the duration of the voyage. Rizal was moved ashore and jailed of Montjuic Castle. Unsuccessful rescue in Singapore. News of Rizal's predicament reached his friend in Europe and Singapore. From London, Dr. Antonio Regidor and Sixto Lopez dispatched frantic telegrams to an English lawyer in Singapore, named Mr. Ford, to rescue Rizal from the Spanish steamer when it reached Singapore by a right of habeas corpus. Unfortunately, the Singapore judge denied the right on the ground that the colon was carrying Spanish troops to the Philippines. Hence, it is a warship of a foreign power. The steamer proceeded to Manila with Rizal on board. Back to Manila. On December 3, the steamer colon arrived in Manila. Rizal, under heavy guard, was brought to Port Santiago. Many Filipino patriots, Deodato Arellano, Dr. Pio Valenzuela, Moises Salvador, Jose Dizon, and Domingo Franco, Teotemo Paez, etc. were brutally tortured to implicate Rizal. Rizal's own brother Pasiano was arrested and cruelly tortured. He endured all pains inflicted by the Spain's diabolical torturers rather than assign damaging statement incriminating his younger brother. His body was shattered on the torture rack and his left hand was crushed by the screw. Preliminary investigation. On November 20, preliminary investigations began. Rizal, the accused, appeared from the judge advocate, Colonel Pasiano Oleg. He was subjected to a grueling 5-day investigation. He was informed of the charges against him. He was answered the question asked by the judge advocate, but he was not permitted to confront to those who testified against him. Two kinds of evidence were presented against Rizal, documentary and testimonial. After studying the papers, the Judge Advocate General submitted the following recommendations. Number 1. The accused be immediately brought to trial. 2. He should be kept in prison. 3. An order of attachment be issued against his property to the amount of the million pesos as intimately, and 4. He should be defended in court by an army officer, not a civilian lawyer. Rizal chooses his defendant. The only right given to Rizal by the Spanish authorities was to choose his defense counsel, and even this was highly restricted, for he had to choose only from a list submitted to him. On December 8, feast day of Immaculate Conception, a list of 100 first and second lieutenants in the Spanish army was presented to Rizal. He chose first St. Luis Tabiel de Andrade to be his defender on the court. Rizal studied Christmas. December 25, 1896 was Christmas. On the day all Christendom joyously celebrated the birthday of Christ, who was born to redeem mankind from injustice. What a dark and cheerless Christmas for Rizal. He who was accustomed to spend this merry season in the company of his beloved family of dear friends, found himself alone and depressed in a dreary prison cell. Truly, the Christmas of 1896 was the saddest and the last Christmas in Rizal's life. The Trial of Rizal. The trial of Rizal was an eloquent proof of Spanish injustice and misrule. More than a farce, it was patiently a mistrial. His case was prejudged. He was considered guilty before the actual trial. Rizal was not given the right, which any accused is entitled in real court of justice, to face the witnesses against him in open court. At 8 a.m., December 26, 1896, the court-martial of Rizal started in the military building called Cuartel de España. Seated behind a long table of an elevated dais were the 7 members of the military court dressed in their respective army uniforms. Also present at the courtroom were Dr. Rizal, Leon Tabiel de Andrade, Captain Rafael Dominguez, and the spectators. Among the spectators were Josephine Bracken, a sister of Rizal, some newspapermen, and many Spaniards. Rizal sat on a bench between 2 soldiers. His arms were tied behind, elbow to elbow, like a common felon. He was dressed in a black woolen suit with a white vest and black tie. He was calm and dignified in appearance. The trial was opened by Judge Advocate Dominguez, who explained the case against Rizal. After him, prosecuting attorney Alocer arose and delivered a long and bitter speech summarizing the charges against Rizal and urged the court to give the verdict of death to the accused. The Spanish spectators applauded noisily. Rizal was accused of 3 crimes. The first is rebellion, second is sedition, and the last is illegal association. According to Spanish law, the penalty for rebellion and sedition was from life imprisonment to death, and the penalty for organizing an illegal association was correctional imprisonment and a fine of 325 to 3,250 per pesetas. After the prosecuting attorney finishes spirited harangue, defense counsel Tabial de Andrade took the floor and read his eloquent defense on Rizal. He ended his defense with a noble but futile admonition to the members of the military. The judges cannot be vindictive. The judges can only be unjust. Evidently, his admonition fell on deaf ears. The Spanish army officers who were trying Rizal were both vindictive and unjust. When Lieutenant Tabial de Andrade took his seat, the court asked Rizal whether he had anything to say. Rizal then read a supplement to his defense, which he wrote in his prison cell. In his supplementary defense, he further proved his innocence by 12 points. He could not be guilty on rebellion. First, he could not be guilty on rebellion for he advised Dr. Pio Valenzuela in Dapitan not to rise in rebellion. Second, he did not correspond with the radical revolutionary elements Rizal life and works. 3. The revolutionist used his name without his knowledge. If he were guilty, he could have escaped in Singapore. 4. If he had a hand in revolution, he could have escaped in Moravinta and would not have built a home, a hospital, and bought lands in Dapitan. 5. If he were the chief of the revolution, why he was not consulted by the revolutionists? 6. It was true he wrote the bylaws of the Liga Filipina, but this is only a civic association, not a revolutionary society. 7. The Liga Filipina did not live long, for after the first meeting, he was banished to Dapitan and it died out. 8. If the Liga was reorganized 9 months later, he did not know about it. 9. The Liga did not serve the purpose of revolutionists, otherwise they would not have supplanted it with the Katipunan. 10. If it were true that there were some bitter comments in Rizal's letter, it was because they were written in 1890, when his family was being persecuted, being disposed of houses, wares, lands, and etc., and his brother were deported. 11. His life in Dapitan had been exemplary, as the politico-military commanders and missionary priest could attest. And last, 12. It was not true that the revolution was inspired by his one speech. After a short deliberation, the military court unanimously voted the sentence of death. The same day, December 26, the court decision was submitted to Governor Polavieja. It was affirmed the death verdict. Polavieja signs the Rizal execution. On December 28, Governor Polavieja approved the decision of the court-martial and ordered the execution of Rizal in December 30 at the Bagambayan Field, Luneta. For signing the fatal document ordering the execution of Dr. Rizal, Governor Polyvieja won the eternal hatred of the
Jose
Filipino people.
Rizal.
He and the other Spanish officials who were responsible for the death of Rizal will evermore remain obnoxious villains in the Philippine history. That's all. Thank you.